Find Your Job, episode 10 with Sari and Samara. And today we have two really, really, really knowledgeable people in the dental world, Alex and Eric. And we're going to sort of talk about culture and how your culture can make or break your practice. Take it away, Sam.
Well, first of all, hi Alex. Hi Eric. Nice to talk to you. What I want to talk about is with regards to culture, it's different for everybody. It's going to be very hard to pinpoint a culture that works for every single person. But what's really important is that when doctors are interviewing at the practice, you're very forthcoming on what it's like to work there every day, what's expected, what are the different personalities, how do you reward and thank your employees. It needs to be more than bringing in a box of donuts on Fridays and letting them wear blue jeans. It's about making sure that they feel comfortable, that they feel valued, and that they want to keep coming to work every day. They choose to spend 8+ hours of their day, 4 to 5 days a week there. So it's important for owners, practice managers, whoever, to really make sure it's an environment that people want to be in, and that they see themselves staying in and growing in for a long time.
Yes. Okay. So I want to tackle this kind of two ways because we came at it from our background is, Alex, like a year after graduating, she bought an existing practice, right? And it was kind of in it was in Newport Beach, so like super nice area, but super saturated, right? And then so you had that for a couple of years and then you sold that to a private dentist. And then we went the startup route and we did two startups, one in 2017 and one in 2019, had those for about 6 years and then sold them to a DSO, right? So we've kind of gone through like the practice ownership journey, have had associates, more, lots of team members. Honestly, we joke, we looked back at we had Gusto forever, right? As like our just HR kind of management company and payroll company. And yeah, we went probably through more employees than we probably thought we were going to when we first opened, right? I think most dentists think like, oh, I'm going to have my team for 30 years because that's how like dentistry always used to be. But I don't know, we were in Denver. It's a pretty transient population. So we were like, if I had one piece of advice for everyone, you're going to have some employees that last a long time and some that don't. Don't stress about it. It all ends up working out. Okay. But I think to kind of answer what you were talking about first is maybe being a practice owner and hiring an associate, right? That's the part I kind of wanted to handle first. We have two offices, so we've hired a few throughout the years, right? Luckily for us, we had hired an associate first. She lasted like about a year and then it wasn't a good culture fit. There were some issues. And then we got really lucky. I don't know if lucky is the right word, or just like we were a little bit more intentional in what we wanted to do with the two associates we've had. They've been with us since we've hired them like 4+ years ago. One of them is leaving soon because he got into endo residency, so it has nothing to do with like us. That's just he's moving on, right? Which is great and very transparent about it. Mm-hmm. I think the thing that when it came to setting expectations with the associate, it was first making sure, like understanding what their goals were first from like a production standpoint, knowing what they want to accomplish, because, obviously having a good culture is important. You want them to feel valued, but dentists come out nowadays with a lot of student debt, right? They have bills to pay. They have a lot of bills to pay. And that is like top of mind for them is if I come into this office, can I make sure there's enough dentistry for me to actually produce? And so the one thing we did, I think, well, was making sure the practices had enough new patient flow, had enough patients in, so the associate could come in and actually like get fed with dentistry, right? So that was the first point, is finding out,
Did you
right,
guys
Alex, I think.
quantify? I didn't mean to interrupt, but did you guys quantify those numbers for them before they started so they had an actualization of like what their paychecks were going to
Yeah,
be?
yes, right. Like when we had hired them, we let them know, the associate that we brought on at Alex's practice, he had asked, how much did the previous associate make, right? And so we were able to give him historical data on that. That other associate, though, wasn't the strongest diagnoser or producer. So we said there was probably opportunity to do more, right? So take these numbers, but also know that this person maybe wasn't the strongest with patients and wasn't the strongest with diagnosis rate. So like there's opportunity. So that, yes, we did do that. We showed what the new patient count had been historically as well. You know, if you average all that out and say like, hey, our new patients get X amount of production per year, you're seeing this many, you're going to see this many exams. Like, here's like here's an estimate of what you can do, but until you're in there doing it, like, it's only an estimate, right? It is partially up to the dentist, I think, or the associate to have that hunger to want to do more. But we did show that, and I think that was really valuable. The other thing that I think was probably the most valuable thing we did was made sure that we didn't put ourselves above the associate in terms of like production. So we made sure that there was capacity for this associate, and then we wanted to make sure we could at least hit what their goals are. So I think sometimes as owners, we forget that we have like multiple hats that we're wearing, right? You have like, you have like 50 hats, right? When you're doing a startup like we did, but you've got, from an income standpoint, you have your W-2 income, right? So the stuff you would make being a dentist, right? Producing dentists. So 30% of adjusted production, however you want to do it. And then you have your other hat, which is what you're making as a business owner, right? In a small business. And I think a lot of us, and I think we did a good job with this, but I think a lot of dentists sometimes get stuck into like, well, I don't want, if I bring an associate on, any of my money to dip, right? I don't want that W-2 income going down. And so they'll fight with the dentist over like this new patient, or, I want to do the crowns, right? Or I want to do this tough case. You have to give it to me. And we took the opposite approach, which was like, let's just let them grow, because if they grow and do a ton, then my other bucket is going to grow more as a business owner, right? So not only is it going to even out, but it's probably going to even make my income go up. And I think you did a good job of that, Alex, too.
Yeah, and it goes back to culture, right? So at the beginning you mentioned like what is culture? Like, you want a good culture for your office. Well, you have to take a step back and define what that means. Like, yeah, I want people to be happy. I want people to, like coming to work. I want, someone to be nice to patients. Let's break that down. Does that mean smiling when a patient walks in? Yeah, maybe that's something. Does that mean, you have to really define the actual action of what you want to try to accomplish, or else it's just like, I want a good culture. And it's like, yeah, that sounds great, but like, what the heck is like good culture to me is something else to someone else.
Yeah, defining it.
Yeah, defining the term and itemizing like what that actually is supposed to be. So like with the associate stuff, it meant that we did not take new patients. It was always fed to the associate. It did not mean, and if there was like a harder case or something like that, it was like that did not automatically go to the dentist. It was, or like the owner. It was like, no, let's see if that's something that you want to learn. We're going to prep you and help you learn that stuff. So we kind of took it back to like actual things to do versus just like fluffy words, I guess.
So is that something that you would discuss with them in the interview? Is that a question? Like, how do you define culture, and then see if that aligns with what you can provide to them as an owner?
I don't think we really, did it in the hiring. I think within that hiring phase, it's just like a lot of questions. Do I like this person? Is this person kind of could possibly get along? Do they kind of fit into like the core values that you kind of think of like, okay, are they, a good person, and are they going to be, be here on time and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's hard to do sometimes, right? Everyone in an interview, it's like when you start dating someone, right? You're always going to show the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
So like you could ask someone anything, right? You could say, we're really big on being efficient and working on patients as fast as we can. Oh yeah, that's important to me too, right? Or, we want to make sure we really establish relationships, and that's good. Oh yeah, that's important to me too. People are going to tell you what they want to get the job, right? So I sometimes would question if you're going to get a real answer there. I think you have to be a little bit smarter in how you do it and like pay attention to some of like subtle cues, right? Like Alex was saying, like, did they show up on time, right? Like that's telling, right? Are they looking you in the eye when they're talking to you, right? Are they always looking down? Can they hold a conversation? Because if they can't hold a conversation with you for 10 minutes, how are they going to do with the patient? So I think some of that stuff you have to be a little bit more of like an investigator, right? And kind of pay attention to social cues versus just directly asking it, because you're probably going to get a biased response in an interview. That's at least my opinion.
I think too, you have to ask them. I mean, you guys also are probably asking some of the tougher questions about like treatment. How do you treat? What's your treatment philosophy? And you're probably not going to lean towards somebody who doesn't align with what your treatment philosophy is. You know, you just aren't. It's hard to do when you bring in somebody who has a different philosophy about like wait and see, or when you think an MOD becomes a crown, or when you think that you're sending a patient out for root canal, or are you keeping it in, or those type of things. I really think like that honesty level of how you treat also brings you closer to somebody in like a cultural experience, because it's a relatable thing since you're all dentists.
Yeah, so good point on that. And this is and you probably see this all the time because you guys do recruiting all the time, right? Is like there was a DSO that I worked for in Colorado prior to our second practice opening that rhymes with like specific dental services. And they have a very specific culture about how they treat and diagnose, right? Like they love indirects. And I didn't do a lot of indirects, right? Like crowns, yes, but not a lot of onlays and inlays versus like a direct composite. Yeah, that didn't work out really well after like 4 or 5 months because I was like, man, it's just different practice philosophies. And one's I'm not saying one's right and one's wrong. It's just that's one of their values is like use that CEREC machine as much as you can. We paid a lot of money for it, right? And so I wish I would have known that. But yeah, when I was doing the interview, of course I was like, yeah, sure, indirects, yeah, those are great, right? But like I knew deep down that probably wasn't, something I was comfortable with doing all the time, versus doing a direct. So yeah, I think being honest and then following up on what you actually say, right? I think the owner needs to say, they need to do the research before and say, look, I know I can bring an associate on. I know there's enough production for what they want. I know, like you said, a treatment plan or diagnose similar to how I do, and we can calibrate, right? Once they come on a little bit. Um, but then you have to follow through with it too, because I think that's a mistake a lot of us owners make too, is we just want to hire someone, right? And so we'll just say, yeah, we'll hire someone and we won't be completely truthful. And then it ends up it's just like lying, right? Like it works to a certain point and then it catches up with you. And that's what I think will end up happening.
Do you see a lot of like I'm seeing, and I don't know if you guys are seeing, people coming out of dental school with poor skill sets because the dental schools just are not doing what they were doing pre-COVID with getting the students ready to take on the world. Do you see a lot of like people needing mentorship or needing more from you or more of your time or more of
Yeah,
your
that's
expertise
so
to
that's a good
help them?
question. And this answer comes from, I've been the one more recently that's been working with our associates, and they both graduated. What one was like 2019 and one was 2020. So like it's kind of interesting because they was kind of both around it. They both ended up doing, a GPR, AEGD, that type of extra year. We never did those, and we graduated 2013. I feel like when I talked to them and I asked them this question, because especially the one that graduated in 2020 when it was like during COVID, and he said they had to like loosen the requirements because I mean you couldn't get patients in. So like they got to do stuff on dentiforms, right? They got to, boards now aren't on live patients, right? You get to do everything without a live patient, which that's a whole other story. That's probably a good thing because that was like the most stressful freaking weekend of like a dental student's life. It's like we had to literally like drive patients down to Louisville and we were in Indiana because we wanted to take the REB and they didn't offer it in Indiana. So we had to pay for like hotel rooms. We had to pay them to come, right? We had to transportation, like all that kind of stuff. And then maybe they show up, maybe they don't show up. So like, yeah, that's a different tangent. But he told me they felt like that extra year was like needed. Like they could tell a big difference between their skill set at a 4-year dental school versus that extra year of a GPR. Like they came out ready to like, I can do thirds, I can do endo, I can do, pretty standard like implant placement, right? They weren't doing like all on fours or anything, but a lot of that stuff that even I didn't do, they learned in that 1 year thing. So I guess you could extrapolate from that is probably was beneficial for them to do that, which is I don't know. I don't know if the dentists that graduated like in the 90s or 2000s kind of came out with more. But yeah, that is something I've seen like anecdotally talking to our associates. So then it's like then you offer CE, right? And that's part of your package, right? Is you're saying, what do you want? Like you said, going back to that honest conversation, what do you want, right? Like, do you want Do you want to get more proficient? I want you to get more proficient. If it's a thing I don't do and you want to keep it in house, hell yeah, let's keep it in house. That's better for the practice, right? If you're confident and you can do it, it's a win-win for everyone. The patient doesn't have to leave, which patients do not like to have to go to different offices. They don't want to, right? And so you can keep things in house. You can still do a good job. Everyone wins in that. So it's, giving them CE credit, right? And letting them learn.
What do you think was the most helpful CE that the two of you have gone to in the last couple of years?
Ooh. What do you think? I mean, all of our stuff has all been like business.
So ours, we always have been focused more on like growing our skill set of not becoming like, a Coyce or a Spear dentist, but being more of like a business focused, right? So especially with me, my scope of dentistry, I was never like, I want to become like the all on four guy or the big cosmetic guy. I was more, I want to build a few offices and then have people who have those skills come in and work there. So a lot of the CE we took wasn't clinical focused. We still took some, like we took docs, right? Like we took like for sedation stuff.
Yep.
I feel like you implemented that more than I did.
Yeah, I did a lot more sedation, so that was really beneficial. I mean, implants. That's kind of the bigger one with the bigger ROI, I think, for us. Or for me. I mean, you took it, but you never.
Oh yeah,
I'm
notorious.
Have you ever replaced an implant?
No.
So probably that one, but I come at it from like a little bit of a different stance of like, for me, I'm not hiring someone really right out of school. Like it is a tough sell. If you're coming in and saying like, oh, give them CE. It's like, well, yeah, that's nice, but I don't have the patience or the like time to invest into someone. So
I think it depends, right? I think
it does depend. I mean, so what I would do as a student who doesn't have all of that skill is, unfortunately, you're going to have to invest in that skill. So you are going to have to take crown courses or endo courses or all of these things to show that, hey, yeah, maybe I didn't get like a great education coming out of school and I only had to prep 2 crowns or whatever it is, or half a root canal, but this is what I've done. I took the initiative. I got all of these things. Yeah, I know it costs a lot of money. I know I already have a loan and I have to have more loans on this. But if you presented that to me, I'd be like, okay, now you're a person who's a go-getter that wants to learn, that understands that you were lacking in a skill and you need to obviously get.
Yeah, and maybe it's more old school on how we're approaching that, and it kind of comes from like twofold, I think. So like one of our best friends in dental school, right? He was like the kid who never passed a course, right? Like always and then when he got to clinical, he crushed it, right? When he got to see patients and actually do the dentistry, he was good. If you would have taken bets though on like who's going to become the most successful from like a production standpoint or skill set, like you'd never bet on him. You would have done the opposite. You would have not bet on him, right? You would have taken like the under. And he ended up, when he got out of school, he said, I'm going to go take a bunch of implant classes. So he did it on his own, right? Like he took the initiative. He wanted to show people that he could do this stuff. And now he's got to be the most productive dentist out of our graduating class, right? Like he's a general dentist, but he does all on fours. He does tons of fixed stuff. And he didn't wait for someone to tell him they could let him do it. He went and did it on his own, right? He was a go-getter. And I think the point Alex, you're making is like, there's that balance between being supportive and saying, hey, I want to help you grow, and also like not babying someone, right? Like you're a dentist, you graduated, you want to be successful. Like it never really works well, in my opinion, when you have to handhold someone really, really hard for a long time. Like it's like with a child, right? Like you have to let them go out and do it, right? And so I think there is that balance between, hey, you're a new grad. I know you might be slower. I want you to grow. I want to help you do that. But like, if you're a practice owner and you have multiple practices or something like that, like your time is valuable too. So it's finding that balance between being supportive, but also not just hand-holding someone. Because that kind of happened with the first associate we had. And she was like, I want to do sedation stuff. We said, okay, we'll pay for your sedation course. So we paid for her to go to docs. She got her certification. Docs is good, right? Like they're compliant. They have their shit down. And, it was a month later. Hey, did you get your certificate yet for it? Did you get everything through Colorado? I tried. It's taking a while. Another month goes by. did you get that sorted out? We want to start doing these cases, right? Like,
No, but she did. She did get it sorted out. And the thing was, is like, all right, how many sedation cases have you presented to someone that is anxious? And is that an option? Well, no one.
yeah,
And so it's like, okay, I can invest as much money into you. I can throw every course at you, give you a $20,000 CE budget. It's not going to matter if you don't have that right attitude. And I will take attitude every day over skill, because skills can be taught. Like, we all didn't know dentistry, coming out of the womb. Like, we learned it. So like, you can learn these things. I can't learn if someone doesn't want to do it.
yeah,
You have to be coachable, teachable, and trainable. And I think, like, at the end of the day, you guys said something that Eric said something is very, like, hits home with me. I just think that if you are a third year dentist, you should really be getting all of your ducks in a row and applying for an AEGD or a GPR program. Like, you just should be doing it, because it's going to give you, I know you want to get out of there, and I know you've got all this debt and it's freaking you out. The debt isn't going anywhere, number one. Number two, no doctor on this planet is going to stop what they're doing in their practice, whether it's a private practice or a DSO, and hold your hand and potty train you through the process. It's just not happening. Where I think in a GPR AEGD program, you are thrown into the literal fire. You have to learn how to be MacGyver. Oh, I see something. Someone got in a car accident. I got this problem. I got that problem. This looks bad. That looks bad. I want this kid to walk out of here that got his two, front anteriors like punched in, and I want him to look like normal and not look like crazy. So I'm going to do all I can now while I'm here to be able to accomplish that. That's not a normal thing you see in an everyday general dentist office. You see, like, someone's got an emergency. It's a root canal. It's a extraction. It's a cavity. It's whatever. It's a bite that's too high, that's not registering appropriately. It's those type of things. And I think they don't see the stuff like you're going to see in a GPR program, because that stuff is like trauma, and how to handle that. Yep. Going to like that, the end of the spectrum that way really gets you the best dentist, because they have to learn on their feet.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
Like, our two associates that came out of that GPR, we did not have to handhold them. Maybe from like, and this is the part I didn't mind, like, learn, like, have the hunger, right, to want to learn it, like, learn the skill, right? I get that in the GPR or in dental school, they're not going to teach you how to communicate to a patient in the right way to get them to say yes to treatment, right? So yeah, we can take CE on that. And that's something I think the dentists can, like, they built that culture of their office is like, what's my new patient experience, right? How do we get patients to actually do the treatment that we're recommending? That stuff, I think, like, cool. Maybe not handhold forever, but like, I'll spend the time training you on that stuff, because I want you as the dentist to learn the skill, and I will help you on how to get the patient to actually say yes to do that treatment that needs to be done. And I think that's one thing we spent more time on, right? Is if it's like role playing, maybe they're an associate and there's building their schedule, right? And then it's slow sometimes. Well, if our schedule's slow, it's like, all right, let's sit in an operatory. All right, I'm a patient who has this. How are you going to talk to me, right? And go through it and just role play it, and then give them feedback. And then that makes them feel more confident. I think that's the skill that a lot of dentists, some people naturally have that, but a lot of people, I think, in dental, like, don't as much, and that's something they can improve on. And so that's one thing that I feel like we spent probably more time versus like, let me sit over your shoulder and let me see how you're, doing your adjustments on your DO fillings and how you're checking for bite, and are you looking here and here? Like, I don't need to train them on that. They already got training on it, right? Like, I shouldn't have to do that.
How to talk to people is a big thing.
Yeah.
Very big.
I mean, it literally should be a class in dental schools, how to case present, because it doesn't matter what kind of dentist you end up being, whether you're a GP, endo, oral surgeon, orthodontist, pedodontist, especially ortho and pedo when you're dealing with kids. You've got to be able to get that, the necessity of why somebody needs this down pat.
The bedside manner.
The bedside, and the comfort of that you're going to be the person doing it. Because I can't begin to tell you how many times I've seen someone present a case and I'm just like, wait a second, I wouldn't have accepted that either. There was no explanation. You didn't have enough evidence. You didn't have enough, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just think they just don't get that.
They breeze through it.
They're
Don't take the
they
time.
and the humility level is sort of lost too. There's an arrogance. It's like, no, you know what? We have a problem. We're going to fix it. Here's the solution.
Yeah, I think dental schools should do that. I think the other part of the problem though is they probably need someone who actually is like competent at it, right? And this isn't meant to be a knock. It's not a knock at dental schools in general. I'm not trying to make it sound too negative there, but like they probably would just have, hey, who's got some free time? Okay, you know, the clinical director of Clinic B, why don't you be the one that teaches them on case acceptance? And that person's never worked in a private practice. They've been in academics their whole life. They are probably not the right person for that. And so I think dental schools need to, I mean, they probably have to pay a lot more money, right, to get someone in there who's good at it, or find someone who's willing to do it for cheaper, but just just for that goodwill of helping dentistry. But I think they would have to also make sure they have the right person in there teaching the students, because we had business classes in dental school, but it wasn't from like Mark Costas, right, teaching us that, who's built like 12
Right.
practices and done it, right. It was some
Right.
guy who had
Sure.
a practice in Podunk, Indiana, and like I don't know if he like ran a practice well. I mean you make an argument probably not well enough if he's now clinic director, right? I mean, not being blunt about it. But so yeah, that would be, I think they would need to solve that issue too. But yes, conceptually I like it.
Sounds like in all the things that we've talked about, as far as, creating that right culture, that right balance, the formula that you have found, Alex and Eric, is to be supportive, help them grow, but also know when to take a step back and see when the bird leaves its nest, if it's going to fly or if it needs a little bit more help.
Yeah, I think that's a good way
Yeah,
to put it. Yeah.
that's kind of the point, I think, of having
Right.
an associate, or it's so that you are either taking a step back or you're trying to build something bigger, and you can't literally do two things at the same time. So yeah, that you do want to nurture that new associate so that they can do it on their own, and it turns into a win-win. So
Well, I definitely think this was helpful, and I certainly hope that when we have some of the dental students looking at this, that they understand that there are people that want to help and they want to mentor, and they're out there to find them, and culture definitely matters. Getting an idea of what you're walking into. Again, it's a year of your life. A contract is usually a year. You should really have a good understanding about what you're stepping into for that year.
yeah, and even though you can't sometimes see it, like the culture, if you're not doing like a like shadowing or anything like that in that interview, like Eric said, it's like everyone's on their best behavior, but culture comes from the top down, right? So if you're getting a weird, creepy, this dentist is just, there's something off, or I just don't know about that, like follow that instinct. Like it's not going to get any better.
Oh yeah, if they can't
Yeah.
like clearly tell you how they're going to pay you, that's probably a huge red flag.
Yeah. So probably not the best office
Yeah.
culture. It's
If
not
it's
like,
a confusing, yeah,
Half
yeah.
your checks
So
are getting Venmoed, half are paid.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. If it's like 2 paragraphs on your pay, probably not good. We could totally do another episode on like red flags that we would probably have if we were associates looking for jobs on things to
Yeah,
avoid
let's
from.
Yes.
let's do it for sure. Red
Yeah.
flags if you're an associate.
Yeah,
I think
that'd be
they
fun.
don't read between the lines enough on what's happening. And again, it's like nobody wants to help anybody out there. And we're just like, we want to help people find the right job. I mean, I have literally pulled people off an interview and said, this is not your place. And they're like, why? And I'm like, I can't explain it to you. You're just not going to fit in with what they're looking for, and you're going to be miserable. Be patient and let me find something that is a better fit for you, the best fit for you, instead of something that's just a fit because you're ready to sign a contract and freaking out about student debt.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys for coming and talking to us. It was so helpful.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Mind your job.
Mind your job.